What up, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Today we're going to take a look at some videos about Tartaria, or the idea that there's this civilization that basically covered the world that existed before us. A lot of people attribute it to being around Russia, but it's said to be all over the world because there's a lot of similarities in architecture all over the world. But let's look at some videos. Let's get into it.
What if the greatest empire in human history is the one we were forced to forget? Maps from the 1600s, 1700s, and even the 1800s show a massive nation stretching across Eurasia, called Tartaria. Yet today, history books say it never existed. Architectural blueprints from Paris, St. Petersburg, Chicago, and Tokyo show the same impossible building style created long before modern cranes, concrete, or electricity. Grand domes, star-shaped cities visible only from the sky, copper spires and antenna-like towers designed to pull power from the atmosphere, a worldwide electrical grid without wires. And then, suddenly, it's all gone. In the late 1800s, firestorms swept through dozens of major cities at the same time. San Francisco, Chicago, Toronto, Boston. A global disaster with no clear cause. Followed immediately by world fairs, where hundreds of advanced buildings were constructed in just months, then mysteriously demolished right after. Almost like they weren't building new wonders, but displaying the last ruins of an old world before wiping it clean. So ask yourself, how does an empire appear on maps for centuries, leave behind architecture we still can't replicate, yet vanish from history overnight? What?
So it seems like a pretty big claim, and I agree. And I started watching stuff about this a while ago, and I thought it was crazy, but it was entertaining. So I kept on watching. And then you start picking apart individual parts of this story. You start to look into the individual fires at each city. You start to look at when people were shifted around all over the world because of wars and famine and religious persecution and whatnot. And you start looking at it from a different angle, and you start to think, why did they do these things at this certain time? Why was this all happening? What was going on? Really, it starts to look really fishy and seem really fishy. But let's get into it.
All of these buildings all around.
I'm a builder, and whenever I talk about these Tartarian buildings, my wife has to remind me to bring up the logistics. Talk about just how impossible it is to move stones of these size, especially without power tools. Little more than horse and buggy technology, they constructed all this, we're told. And yet, as a builder, I just have to call bullshit. All my fellow builders who have built anything also call bullshit. This is our repertoire. This is what we have to work with. Awesome diamond tip tools with infinite power. We can go to Home Depot and buy custom cut lumber of whatever we want. And we don't do much better than this. Like, sorry guys, this would pass inspection in most counties. And it really doesn't make sense that our buildings are so shitty when the old ones were so magnificent. You can say craftsmanship and pride and hard work, but I don't think so. This is a stone fucking palace, guys. And I'm sorry, this is not good enough proof that you built it. What is that motherfucker doing right there?
Painting.
No way we caught this fella working on this building. It's so dumb. Rather, I think that little fella built it as much as this artist built this one right here. This is all fake history. And I think the biggest truth they're trying to hide from us is that we're post-apocalyptic. We were more advanced once upon a time, and this is not, in fact, the high watermark. We are squatting in structures we did not build.
That's one thing that's really weird to think of. We're always told that we're at the top, we're the best that humans have ever been. We got the best advanced technology, we got the smartphone, we got everything, we got these cars, we got it all. But it seems like if you look around at stuff that had already been done, that they had been doing it better than we are now.
Obviously, none of our structures look like this anymore. They look like dog shit. And it's no offense, again, as a builder, I'm not trying to shit on anyone. But just case in point, here is the Elks Temple in Tacoma, Washington. It has the same hanging fruit basket motif as the Capitol building. And this is just where the men of Tacoma get together and talk about their civil duties, right? A wealthy boys club of all the best men in town. And this is what they built. But this is what they built in Olympia. They weren't able to found one here. They had to build it themselves. And it's an absolute testament to the mediocrity of our current age. What's the good explanation for the fall off in quality? Here's a Mason temple, magnificent, Romanesque, to the nine. Again, a shitty little sign outside, but look at the fucking size of this thing. And then juxtaposed to this modern Mason lodge that went up in the 80s, right? The other one went up in the
Ooh.
20s. This one went up in the 80s. That's only 60 years,
Ah.
guys. And that timeline should terrify everyone. This is the brewery. It shut down in the 20s. It's been here, abandoned ever since. God, I want to move in there yesterday. Renovate it, make it a hotel, make it something sick. But no, the city of
Beautiful
Olympia, or
buildings.
somebody owns it. They founded it. So you realize we're hemmed in by paper tigers. You come out of the bushes at any moment and throw you in prison for something you definitely did. But like, we're all just doing what they are doing. We founded these buildings the same as them. And so I take great comfort in how recent all the bullshit is. I know that we're on top of centuries of bullshit, but all of these narratives aren't actually that old. 1907 is what I keep going back to. That's like my rock. Most of the psyops come from 1907. Of course, they are piggybacked by much older psyops. But I think the past is supposed to be exhausting. It's supposed to be not remembered well and like kind of like, man, I'm really glad we're done with the past and we can move on to the future. But I'm the complete opposite. I want to know what has happened here. Who controls the present now controls the past, and who controls the past controls the future. They absolutely have a stranglehold on all of our past lives. That's some bullshit, and I think it's time for it to be done. The lies are comical, and it still baffles me they have never been scrutinized before. But as they say, no time like the present. What a gift to be alive today.
He's so right. A lot of bullshit, and it's no way to prove that stuff. It's very difficult, but we have these physical objects that are buildings that are still standing today that showcase the abilities of the people that were before us. So that's a one big clue of things that we have to go off of.
They turned the ether grid against itself, hijacked the seismic fields, triggered a resonance collapse. Stone became liquid, mountains bled, the ground rose and swallowed whole cities. That's what the mud was. Not sediment, not floodwater. Resonance fallout from a frequency war. Tartarian cities weren't primitive. They were powered by resonant architecture, buildings designed to generate and receive frequency. Domes, antennas, star forts, giant tuning forks disguised as monuments. These structures didn't just look beautiful, they harnessed free energy pulled from the ether, distributed wirelessly through geometry and sound. The enemy didn't just want to destroy the people, they needed to shut down the grid. And to do that, they had to collapse the frequency field. There's a phenomenon called soil liquefaction. Vibrate the ground at just the right frequency, and the solid turns to sludge. Not water, not mud, but a state change triggered by vibration.
That's where some of the mud flood theory, which is that a flood happened sometime in the past in the last couple hundred years. I think, according to a lot of people, it's in the last couple hundred years. But yeah, through the liquefaction, like that liquefaction, whatever it was.
The earth becomes a trap. Foundations fail, stone sinks. And if it's done on a massive scale, you get the mud flood. It didn't fall from the sky, it rose from beneath, triggered by resonance weapons. This was geoacoustic warfare, and it worked. Ancient texts speak of trumpets that leveled cities, walls that fell from shouting, temples that hummed themselves into collapse. These weren't myths, they were acoustic weapons. Tartaria likely had its own frequency defenses. So to break it, the controllers needed tech even stronger, tuned to the exact harmonic signature of Tartarian architecture. This wasn't random destruction, it was targeted dissonance, resonance sabotage. The same way opera singers shatter glass, but scaled up to city-wide collapse. Every reset needs a story, a cover, a myth, and so they blamed it on floods, natural disasters, time, chaos. They rewrote the maps, changed the calendars, buried the history, literally. But the truth is buried in plain sight. They silenced the cathedrals, they shattered the grid. But they didn't stop using sound, they just inverted it. The war frequency never ended, it just changed pitch. Modern cities don't just look soulless, they're engineered to be spiritually sterile. Box shapes, low ceilings, right angles that deflect energy, fluorescent lighting that drains your aura. None of it flows, none of it sings. Compare it to Tartaria, vaulted domes, spirals, gold leaf, sacred ratio.
I don't know if you've ever been into some of those old buildings or a library in your area or something, or they're so beautiful and there's something about the geometry to them that's just wonderful. And there's something timeless about them as well. And I think it's because of this geometry that they have. I don't know if it's You know, all of it's very Roman looking. I don't know if they're using Roman proportions like the Roman rectangle and some things like that to make them really pleasing to the eye. But there's beautiful buildings out there. And if you start looking at them as electrical components as well, you'll start to look at them a little bit differently too, whether it's from an aerial view or from just the overall shape of the thing. So yeah, it's a lot of real weird stuff out there with these buildings, but we're gonna get into some more. Hope you guys had a good day, and we're gonna call it there. This is the first video I've ever made, so I hope you guys like it, and like and subscribe if you want to see some more. Thank you, appreciate it.